So, to formally introduce myself, to whether that's people that have been following from back in the day, currently, or even newbies to the channel, to introduce myself, my name is Minyata, and I left my YouTube name as my name um, because there's only one of me. And so, oh, this is, let me tell you something. I was very tempted just now to actually stop and go all the way back. Do you know why? Meaning you just cut that and start over. But I'm just gonna roll with this. Because I am a Libra, okay, I am a middle child. And so there is an anonymity to being the middle child, like a gray area to being a middle child, and a sublime element to being the middle child. It was why I really, really love that album by, I think, J. Cole, called Middle Child, because it's indicative, the album was, of sometime the feeling of vagrancy, being overlooked, or like what they say, the redheaded. A lot of times, being the middle child can feel like being like the redheaded, what they call it, the redheaded stepchild or something. And what's funny is that my natural hair is red, sandy red. And so, yeah, I am a middle child. I have an older brother and two younger sisters. The youngest came along like much later. It was primarily the three of us coming up. And so I know I've dropped a few videos on my mother, right? Being my first adversary, competitor, saboteur, biggest hater, pimp, all of that, right? Well, it is so indicative of her relationship to me. And I always like to akin or like compare it to your parent never knowing you at all. Never even trying to get to know you as their child. Maybe interacting with you is just like an extension of themselves. Never like validating those things that make you you, much less to even be building you up behind those things too. And so y'all gotta let me what they say, let me cook with this, even with the pauses and all, because I'm pushing through this. And so, yeah, in my life, having, being in that middle position, I was holding in so many positions, it all together, but sort of unseen and unrequited, by any of my relatives. I was always the one that would catch on to something first and fastest, but was also like a little gullible in a sense of believing so readily things as they appeared, and I was played out a lot by my family as an end result. But I learned the art of manipulation all throughout my life, and the art of always downplaying myself to uplift and for the betterment of the whole. I think I might have been the most group-oriented, family-oriented person out of, all of my family. And I say these things based off of action. Yeah, real life action. And so all throughout my life, my mother never really knew me, never took the time to get to know me, never really shared with me so many things I came to find out about her after her passing. And toward the end of her life, I'm quite sure that my younger sister was youngest at the time, was a form of her golden child. And so toward the end of everything, the child she probably bullied the worst, stepped on, spit on, shit on, used as her habitual punching bag. And in that regard, I feel like she felt like she knew the whole of me. And she would tell me to my face that she just thought I was weak. I needed to toughen up. You know, the world is a cold place. And so toward the end of her life, that I was the only child actually there. And that there was one particular incident that always stands out to me, even to this day in my life, because I feel like it was the first day that my mother really met me and my potential, rather. It wasn't even potential, it was my abilities, you know, even at the time, and came to grips with those. And of course, it was during, the chemotherapy, possibly before she lost her left breast to breast cancer. And it's funny that we're in Breast Cancer Awareness Month right now, and much love and respect for that, you know, to all affected. But was dealing with that, and toward the end, before losing that breast, she almost took on like a second childhood, mentally and in her faculties. And I remember interacting with her toward the end, and feeling sad as fuck, because this was a woman that, you know, as evil as she may have been, and spiteful and nasty toward me, that I respected her business acumen and her ability to always handle business, cross T's, dot I's. You know, even in doing wrong, she was masterful, you know, and a master executioner of anything that she would set out to do, besides sometimes love, okay? And so I never saw her make a mistake. And toward the end, she ended up losing her keys at a car dealership and the like. And by the time that she realized that, we were far away. And so something happened where something just clicked in me, and I got us a ride off of the bat. I didn't know this person. I walked up to them and I explained what was going on with my mother and me, and he just took us. He took us back to the dealership, got the keys. From there, even took us out to eat, and then made sure that we even made it back home, you know, safe and secure. My mother looked at me sort of after that. And I don't bring up this story as an accolade to myself. I rarely, if ever, brag on myself. But she finally looked at me and seemed like a woman, and there was also like a transformation to where I became a form of the parent. And before passing away, something very powerful she said to me was, of all of my kids, when I think of you, Minyata, I am the least worried about you. And that she admittedly slept on me all of her life until the end, before finally being able to see me. And so that same dichotomy plays itself out in other aspects. So many of my relationships, even, that the value is only felt after the resonance. And before she died, I almost felt like, wow, to a semblance. And I'll be very specific to make it just a semblance. I felt a level of respect from my mother. Because in so many ways, I know that she had sabotaged me to be the worst loser in and at life. It was almost like she sabotaged me on purpose, but the sickening side to that is that if I overcame that, she would have made me a warrior. And so for that, this is the cognitive dissonance that as much conflict I have in terms of feelings for my mother, is also a level of reverence. I don't know if at the end of the day that was her end game or her point to being the way that she was, but it built me impenetrable, a solid fortress. Rest in peace, Lucinda Williams.